So there was one more film we had to hold out for before doing our best films of 2017 list, and it was this one. For good reason, because, like, wow. Now, Phantom Thread is the new film from Paul Thomas Anderson, the critically acclaimed director of films such as Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love, Magnolia, There Will Be Blood, The Master, Inherent Vice, probably another one in there that I've missed. And here he reteams with who we believe is the greatest actor of all time, Daniel Day-Lewis, for what is supposedly his final screen performance ever. And they've made magic, again, just like they did with There Will Be Blood back in 2007. This film is a very subtle, detailed, intricate kind of look into the life of this fashion designer in the 1950s, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, as he kind of engages in a relationship with a woman who kind of, they have this profound effect on each other, and it's a very, very complicated, very, very interesting relationship that only a director like Paul Thomas Anderson could really explore in this kind of way.
It's honestly impossible to ever talk about a Daniel Day-Lewis performance and not make a fool of yourself, because the guy is a god, and it's pretty much impossible to explain how a god works. So we're just going to try our best. We'll just throw some words out there, and we'll see what happens, because this is his final ever performance, and it is so magical to watch, so beautiful, so intricate, so nuanced. I mean, look, the man has a face born for screen.
It is the best face for screen ever. The amount of different things you can work out of just him with a blank expression, you could get that much out of it as a filmmaker. But then you add what he is able to do into that, and just.
And when you're watching this film, play a little game. I mean, we were playing the same game and we didn't even realize until after the film. And what game am I talking about? I'm talking about trying to find Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, because where does he go?
Honestly, I kid you not, within 5 minutes of this film, just like, look at him and go, is that Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah.
Is that Daniel Day-Lewis? Because it doesn't, it does not feel like him. It doesn't look like him. He sure as hell doesn't move like him. He just completely transforms into a character that is so Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, he has the same English
voice,
accent,
the same hair, the same, like, it's not like watching Lincoln or There Will Be Blood or any of his older stuff. It's like, no, this is physically still him, but he's just gone. That's not, seeing an actor do that to the degree that he's done here is truly incredible. He is the main event of this film. He is why you are going in the first place. And to say that this role is detailed and complicated to a degree that, like, for me walking out of it, I was trying to work out, like, where the creative relationship between Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis kind of, where does that sit? How does that work? There has to be a point where because Daniel Day-Lewis is in character on set the whole time, like, that on its own is such a complex and interesting thing to look at. But then what you're seeing translated to screen is just, it's one of the best performances I think we've ever seen. We can easily say that. He's such a quiet character here, but when he pops and when he has those moments of this, he is the most, like, aggressive creator type I have ever seen in terms of his raw focus on everything revolving around his work, and just wow.
His character is very childish as well, and it's a character that he's never really played before. And what's really exciting is, as you said, seeing him pop, because he is so childish. It's like this kid just throwing blocks across the room when he's not happy, when something's not going his way. He is so incredibly frustrated, and he is just an actor that knows how to show that.
Because he's going from being this incredibly graceful, respectable, almost kind of ethereal type person, and then he's becoming this kind of almost like a mild monster. And watching that kind of switch between those two types, those two states of being, is honestly just one of the true pleasures of cinema right now.
Now, we could talk about DDL for days, but I mean, we do have to move through this review, so we'll move on to Vicky Krieps. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her name, but she is absolutely fantastic. She is probably the main sort of supporting role here.
Well, she's almost like the second lead here. Like, she really does command every kind of second of the film that she's on screen.
Basically, yeah, and the fact that, like, she goes toe-to-toe with DDL, and I mean, like, I don't think she's done too much cinema. I believe she's done a fair bit of theatre, or she's done a lot of foreign film. I could be wrong there, but either way, the fact that she's come in out of nowhere and given such just a ridiculously good performance is just amazing.
So textured, so layered. Again, so intricate. That really is the thing we keep going back to with this whole film. But she's very outwardly emotional, and I think that really works to counteract. You end up with a fantastic dynamic between the character of Alma and the character of Reynolds. There's a fantastic kind of distance there between like this emotional disparity between the two of them that honestly reveals so much kind of texture in between that fills in their relationship. The fact that these two people who really are like quite different, the way they kind of work with each other is really quite stunning.
We also have Leslie Manville, who plays Cyril, who is the sister to DDL's character, and her performance is very, very interesting because she's such a powerful figure within the film, and she holds she's so incredibly composed, probably the most composed character throughout. So she's very level, very grounded, but so goddamn serious, and I can see why she's getting a lot of awards attention.
The way I kind of see it is in any given scene, if Leslie Manville's character is present, she's kind of got the full gravitational force of the scene, all the kind of the tension and the energy just kind of sucks in towards her. And it's incredibly difficult to do considering her character, as Jay was saying, is so kind of composed, so quiet. So much of the work is done with her eyes and her breathing and just those kind of finer details. And if we're looking at the finer details, so much of that comes down to the brilliant work here by writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson. The story here is very much focused on this very, very complicated relationship between these people. And I see in that how some people have kind of been, it's kind of been a somewhat divisive response from casual audiences with this movie because of, it's one of those films that kind of lean into people seeing as pretentious. But the thing is that this movie is so loaded with ideas, but none of them come in the form of aggressive story. It's all little details communicated between people. Yes, there's kind of a soft intrigue to a kind of a slight mystery element that's set up in the first 10 to 15 minutes or so that has a very kind of a small payoff, depending on how you're looking at it in terms of the scale of the film. This is a very small, very intimate film. None of the payoffs or the moments are going to feel necessarily grand to the degree of your classic blockbuster. But in the in relation to this film, every moment, every kind of, when you're looking at it on that kind of macro level, every detail, all the gestures, the glances, the pace that someone walks through a room, everything has a massive amount of weight to it, and everything in itself tells a story. And that is part of why the writing and directing here is so incredibly superb, because no matter how subtle this film is, it seems to have these really, really big moments if you're able to tap into how to look for them.
And again, this is just a big achievement, not only for cinema, but also for Paul Thomas Anderson, because if you don't know much about the production on this film, it was absolute hell. They filmed in this house, so when you see the film or if you've seen the trailers, everything takes place within this big house. And when you watch the film, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you know, this is absolutely shot fantastically. It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It's so well lit. Everything's done really nicely, and it feels so clean and crisp. But then you also realize that all the actors and the crew were also living within this house. They were also functioning within this house, and it's like, that's just a big clusterfuck all the time. How on earth did they make this seem so seamless? Because of PTA. I think that alone is honestly such an astonishing achievement that just needs to be recognized. And supposedly from what we've heard, it was actually hell to work on even for the actors because there was so much going on all the time. But the fact that none of that ended up showing is just, I mean...
I think the thing is there with that is that this film as a whole, when you're watching it, the way it's executed is just so effortless. Everyone that's involved in this seems to really, really know what they're doing. As always, Paul Thomas Anderson's visual storytelling is unparalleled. He is one of the greatest visual storytellers working today. Just as we said, it's all down to composition, it's all down to framing, it's all down to blocking. We also need to give a shout out, we've gone the whole review without bringing this up yet, but the score, I go as far as saying that this is some of the year's best music, and it's also definitely the best stuff I've heard from Jonny Greenwood so far in their kind of collaboration between director and composer here, which has been ongoing for quite some time. The score is really wall-to-wall in this film. It only kind of disappears for really intense moments where we really let the actors kind of command it. But the music here is just... If you're looking at the music in relation to the film, I'd almost see it as kind of the film minus the music is kind of the outlines. It's the pen drawings on this canvas, and then all of a sudden the music comes in and colours it. And adds that flavour, adds that texture to it. And it really is a really stunning score from that perspective, is that it really kind of not only tempers and controls emotion to a degree, but also adds so much more kind of, it kind of adds an extra layer to each scene, which allows everyone to kind of get more out of it in general. And that is when music is at its best, when it enhances a scene, and that's what the score does here.
He also reuses motifs in the score in different contexts, which is something that's really quite fascinating, because you then emotionally respond differently to the same score in different scenes, which essentially also allows the film to have a lasting impact both outside of the film and when you go to rewatch it as well, because depending on how you feel that day, you're going to feel differently watching it.
And I think what's important to understand overall with this movie is that it's very difficult to access everything going on here. There's so many little pleasures to get from it. There's so much kind of engagement that you can get from the experience as you're going through it. But I don't think there's any way you can get all of the experience the first time round. There was times where I was watching the film where I was going, hang on, is the way I've emotionally disconnected from this scene intentional? Am I supposed to be feeling that way? And then like 15 minutes later in the film, reevaluating where I was at that point and going, oh, okay, that's weird, that's interesting, that's different. It's a difficult thing to explain without having actually seen the film, but all I know is that this is a movie that is going to reveal more layers the more times I watch it. And it was good enough that I will be going back. I think this is possibly a perfect film trapped inside my mindset right now, where I can't access that perfection to the degree that I want to at this stage. So if I'm going to score this film right now where I'm at, I'm going to give this one a 9.5, but I know that there's quite likely another 0.5 I can squeeze out of this one over time that it will kind of reveal itself to me.
Yeah, 100%. I feel very similar. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson films, like, they take time to unlock. I mean, like, look at There Will Be Blood and the amount of time the entire world has had with that film, and pretty much unanimously...
We're still discovering stuff.
I know, but so many people are already out there calling it the best film of the last 20 years. Like, it's just... The guy is a god, and his films are just so complex. Anyway, I'm just going to give this one a 9.8 for now, and in time, it'll change. The score doesn't really matter. If you get the chance to check this film out, guys, check it, because it's the last ever performance from Daniel Day-Lewis, and it's in a Paul Thomas Anderson fucking film.
It's just the highest caliber of filmmaking you can get. And it's because of that it's so hard to grapple with everything here. So in time, this will be definitely one of the best things I've ever seen, and it's close to that right now. So that was a very sweaty Australian summer review of Phantom Thread. Have you seen it yet?
Did you like it?
Did you hate it?
Did you like this video?
Of course you did.
Pray for more banter.
If so, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banter.